Are you, I think we had talked about it, are you under contract now?
We have terminated that contract so we can get more beneficial bids.
Good. Okay. So now basically, like I suggested, get me the.
So really what we'd be getting is competitive pricing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but in other words, I'm just not representing company X, I'm just representing.
No, I like that
X,
part.
Y, Z.
Yeah.
So they're all gonna be competing for your
Right.
business.
And just so the board's aware, later on our agenda, we have someone from a different company that does the exact same thing Paul does, just so we're using a few people and so we're doing ourselves. But I told Mr. Black that earlier.
Right.
But if the board's in favor, I would like, if the board would be willing to give the authorization, I'll start working with Mr. Block, getting that information so we can start getting us bids. If the board's comfortable with that.
Sounds like a nice thing to do.
Sounds good to me.
That's fine with me.
Good.
All right,
So
so,
I will be in touch with you? or-
yeah, reach out tomorrow.
Okay, you gonna be here tomorrow?
I'll be here, I think you have my card, right? My
Right.
cell's on there, so even if I'm in a meeting, I'll still be accessible.
Well, I guess what I can do is give you a call so you can prepare the information that I need. And it'll-
And chances are, you'll probably be in touch with Sarah on some of that stuff, because,
Karen worked on it, and
Okay.
when we've done it in the past, so
Oh,
she
great.
probably has stuff like
Okay.
kind of ready to go.
so you might speak to Karen.
That'll be,
obviously.
yeah, and for us.
Great.
All right, thank you very much.
Good to meet you.
All right,
Thank
Good night.
you. Be well.
All right. Friends of May Board, hello.
Good evening,
Nancy
you?
De Palma.
Mayor, village trustees, let me hand this out.
First, I want to thank you in person, because you haven't been here before, and to be thankful to the board for these beautiful tables.
I know,
So,
but
Trustee
you know what I
Matthews as well.
noticed sitting in the chair?
Yes, somebody already thanked it.
You know, a little glue is needed there on one of the stretchers.
But
Eagle eye
we
wiggle here.
and we appreciate the work you guys have done and doing such a great job with this.
Well, we want to continue doing more. And Lita obtained a grant through the New York court system, through Judge Sion's office, to refurbish. And here are two proposals that the Friends of Maplewood acquired. I'm sorry, Mayor, that I didn't get this to you first.
Oh, no problem. Do you have,
Where's my manners?
how many copies do you have by any chance?
Enough for all of you and for ourselves.
Okay. Joel, if you want my copy, this way you Joel. Thank you.
So we received two proposals, and last Monday, the Friends met, and we reviewed the two proposals. And if you just want to peruse, both of them, and if you have any questions, and I can tell you what our decision was.
Both proposals, the total cost is covered in full by the grant, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. The money is in place already, so it's not like waiting for it, and it's use it or, bless you, use it or lose it.
And it has to be used within this room. It's
Yes.
designated for this room. And it had certain guidelines that had to be met, which is why we're focusing where we're focused.
I mean, instead of us reading through, if you just want to kind of give us the summary of
Well,
both these and tell us.
We looked at Jared's proposal, and he proposes to match the front of this, to match the same paneling in your office, which will keep in with the historic nature of Maplewood, and so on, with a black granite top that will last forever. Forever. Instead of being painted, it'll be wood and so on, and that's the proposal that we chose.
Selected, yeah. I'd like to say as well that when we presented to both of these applicants, and not from the planning board, whether they're bid or whatever. We gave them the same guidelines. We told them that we wanted something that fit the criteria of the money that we had to spend. It had to stay within that budget, and that we had to be focusing on trying to make it most historic to set the tone for the rest of the refurbishing. If we have the opportunity in our next grant, it would be to repaint and refurbish some of the doors here. Those doors there are magnificent, the pull-out doors. And we're looking in our next attempt to try to get that and to try to get the proper lighting to come out of that lovely ceiling and get rid of
Well, yes, all
that
all
one back
issues,
there.
yes.
All in good time.
All in good time. And maybe a split air system.
That would be lovely.
It's very noisy in that corner.
So after our meeting together, it seemed, I don't want to,
No, go right ahead, Marcia.
from my perspective, and then you can say yours. After our meeting, we came to the conclusion that what most fit and reflected the desires of what the committee has always been working toward, which is the historic restoration of the building, that this one, that the cartoon presentation was absolutely in the flavor of what we were looking for.
With
And
the
since
raised
we have the funding
hands,
for it that
yeah.
has to be spent before we lose it, that's what we've decided. And in truth, the Friends of Maplewood and all of their restoration work look for it to be the most historic, as well as we can within the confines of funding, be able to do the most historic.
And
There we are.
the total grant, I believe, is for 10,000?
Yes.
So this number runs pretty close to 10. You guys feel confident that there won't be any cost overruns based on any factor?
Well, there can't be once he signs off this. That's it. That's all they
I
can.
just want to make sure to make that clear.
Now, very clear. And it was made very clear. It was also made very clear to the people, that those were our constraints. There was no extra money coming.
Okay. Well, just from my perspective, I'm not sure the other board members feel. Friends of Maplewood's done a great job before, stewards of this building, the tables, mayor's office, and other areas. I personally don't have a good eye for the aesthetics, so I'll take your recommendations, and I'm comfortable with this. I'll open up any other comments or questions.
I see the two, are these two separate
Yes.
Yeah.
things, right?
Two different
Yes.
quotes, same thing.
Two
Two different
different
contractors.
contractors for the same job.
Yeah,
And then this contractor had two different.
Well,
quotes.
for the same room.
yeah.
They're not the same job.
Yeah.
But just to make it clear to the board too, because one number, or two numbers are lower than the other, it's all grant money. And if we go under the budget, we don't keep the excess.
And beyond that, it's not even merely a question of that. The question is, when presented with the challenge, the respondent who came up with the design that reflected what we were looking for is the one we selected. And in truth, in all of our work, from the stained glass windows starting many years ago at the floor, there is a consciousness that if we have the funding for this, that we can make it historically correct. The other man has done work here before, and it's been fun work. But the design that he came up with was not of the nature that we were looking for.
So these are two different ones?
Yes.
Projects?
Yes.
No, same
No.
project.
No, one project,
So which one are we going with this?
that one.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to know.
We thank you. It's our joy to do this, and we were just lucky that Lita came through with the available funds.
All right, any other comments, questions? Is the board in agreement that we'll accept the recommendation from Friends of Maplewood?
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Okay, thank you very
so
much.
Thank
Enjoy
you,
your
Nancy.
evening.
Come
Okay.
Hey, right along, Trustee Matthews, do you want to speak to
I
the
do.
work you've done on the lighting law?
In the answers that I have a copy here, let me do this first. I've gotten good response finally. There's a young man working over at Orange County Planning, and Dave Church directed him to do some research for us, which he has done. And what he found was he gave me a bunch of information about ways we can get purchase kits, and we're getting prices on kits where you can make adapters on our existing lighting throughout the village to try to lower the cost of providing the electricity. And we also were looking for a way to take the burden in any development, such as, not merely focusing on, but it's the latest that we've had to deal with here in the village, like a Harness Estates, where you have the historic lighting, but we don't want the cost of that to fall back on all of the village taxpayers. We're looking for a way to be self-sustaining for the area that it serves. What you have in front of you is the law that was taken from another area that has been used very successfully. I gave a copy to Dave Donovan so he could adapt this for us to look at, to try to use here. Since most of any of the land that we have of any portent, aside from, one or two houses together, would constitute a development, for lack of a better word, we'd be able to consider instituting something like this, which would put the cost on, and in perpetuity, on those who are serving the benefit in that housing development, rather than having it go on everyone. Which is why we've trying to find a way for us to maintain the historic character without it costing us the additional. Henceforth, with the help of Orange County Planning, we've come up with this law that's being used in other communities.
So after something is built, sold, lighting need repair, would that cost on the property owner?
It would cost
or the
not
utility
individually. If you look at this, it's not individually, it's on the entire development. There would be a certain fee built into that development for maintenance of the electricity on the period streetlights.
Built
For
in
example, it's
on-
short, I'll just read it to you.
Built
Okay?
in on like a rebilling thing, or is it a one-time billing, or is
No,
it
the
a
difficulty.
periodic, a yearly billing, or whatever?
Well, it's only 4 sentences. It says, Lamper Street Lighting District. You create a district in that particular area.
Okay.
In every such village, any Lamper Street Lighting District created or organized under the provisions of the village law, excuse me, shall continue, and the Board of Trustees shall be, and they are hereby vested with full management and control of such districts, and the lighting system thereof, the assessment of the cost and expenses of such lighting, which lighting district shall, until discontinued in the manner hereafter provided, be managed, controlled, and operated, and may be extended or enlarged by said Board of Trustees, in the manner provided in the village law, provided, however, that the Board of Trustees of any such village may, in its discretion by resolution, discontinue any lighting district, in which case the provisions of the village law in relation to street lighting shall apply as it does throughout the village for anything else. So what you're coming up with is a lighting district where the cost would be maintained by that district, people within that district.
So there would be,
And David's coming up with a way for that to be structured for
so
us.
there would be numerous districts within the village?
Well, what you'd have is lighting districts, such as you have an historic district, or you have a zoning district. Part of that, we don't have that many areas left. I mean, wherever there is, a few acres, for example, if you were to have building go on the mile track, and you were creating that entire large development, if that were to come back, then you'd have a lighting district in there, so that the period lighting would be borne by the people who are making their money or living in that area. You'd have the same going on if you were to put in that kind of lighting in another area. I'm not saying necessarily that would be up to the village board, whether, where this would occur.
So I'm going to use harness as an example.
Okay.
Let's say this law was in effect
Right.
before harness came to fruition.
Correct.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Harness would then be its own separate lighting district.
Yes,
And the owners of the houses in harness would be responsible to pay for the maintenance of those lights,
correct,
even though it wasn't their problem that they were put in shoddy.
that they were,
Put in very poorly.
that's not the question for me, for us.
I understand that's not the question for us, but under this scenario, they would bear the burden
Yes,
of poor craftsmanship. Because that's the problem with the lights in harness. They were put in very poorly. So
well,
there's
then we have
120
to have
houses
them
up
be
there.
approved.
120 houses up there would bear the burden of shoddy craftsmanship.
Well, we'd certainly have to look for something not to have that occur. It should not have occurred, and it
And this
does.
isn't specific to harness. I know I wouldn't be able to
It's
support
not.
something like these lighting districts like that.
Well, just to be clear at the same time, this is the first thing that, Trustee Matthews put in front of us.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not.
And it won't be this wording. I've given it to David.
For her work. I'm just saying that
I know
general
that.
concept. I would.
Quite all right.
I have some reservations.
I do, listen, if it's worded like this, I would have reservations as well. But this is even worse successfully.
Because it's kind of the
So,
same as saying people on any given street should be responsible for the street, for the pavement on their street. We're only going to build those people on that street.
well,
If
the
the pavement
difference
needs to be
is,
replaced.
that you're talking about areas where you have concentrated building. And how many areas like this do we have left? 3 or 4? And
Yes.
yeah, and in those areas, if you would have wanted to maintain it and not have it fall on the rest of the village, you'd be instituting something like this. If the wording that David comes up with reflects the wording that's here, I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Right.
But it was the base, and I know that it's, believe it or not, worked successfully other places. So I charged David with coming up with something
Right.
that would at least get it off everybody else's back, to try to find a way. Because my fear, when times are hungry, I think that, we've had this conversation on many levels, but in people's zeal, I think that sometimes they forget part of the draw of this community is its historic nature. So I'm trying to find a middle road where you can maintain the character of the community and not have it be a cost prohibitive thing for the rest of the community. And if in this area people are benefiting from an historic nature in that community for the lighting, it's not the same as the street to me. It's not the same as the street. So we have to wait to see what David comes up with. I mean, he and I have talked about it, and we'll see what happens.
If there was a commercial building that went up on a single lot, would that be a district in of itself?
You're asking me how I see it. If this were in the across the highway, I don't think there'd necessarily be a necessity for it. I think we're talking about in historic character community areas, within the confines of the village here, not in the industrial zone. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think it's a good first
I'm working
step.
on it.
Yeah,
What can I tell you?
Absolutely.
I'm working on it.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out, like in the village, give me a couple of examples other than Harness Estates of what this would pertain to.
Well, the mile track property, if that were developed,
Okay.
I mean, that was, when presented repeatedly, has always been based on the historic character and the racing community, etc.,
Okay.
in all of its showings. Now, you're talking about putting up period lighting there, and we don't want it to turn into ugly streetlights with, so in order to prevent that, you try to create the lighting district, which was part of the cost of buying in there.
I mean, just for me, from my perspective, I just think that we're picking at something that's a waste of time, and that there's no real, it's not something that's even of an issue, because I don't see anything getting built anytime in the near future in our lifetime, anyway, in the village here. And I would be more in favor. I would be more in favor of if we're dealing with the lighting, just to preserve the places in the village that are historic in nature, versus worrying about what might happen 40 years from now if they build something on the mile track down there, which is doubtful.
I'm more hopeful than you right now, and I just want us to, I do not want to see the few places we have left cause the burden that we've seen happen.
We don't have anything left.
Well, but we have that one, and it's a big one.
Right, obviously this.
We're at
fledgling. It doesn't go back and using Harness as an example, obviously it doesn't go back
No,
ex post facto
No.
or whatever to
no.
pertain to things that are already here.
I look at it this way, Peter.
Probably fine.
We're looking at people to come in and try to get us lower rates on electric and gas,
Right.
And I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to find ways to save money for the community and maintain the historic character. Whether this ever comes to fruition, it'll take a vote, majority will rule. But I wanted to find a way to try to maintain the character of the community without hurting all the taxpayers.
Well, I guess my contention would be is, let's just say hypothetically, somebody wanted to develop the mile track or
Right.
whatever, and put a development in there, or whatever development in and around whatever scattered piece of property might be left around in the village. Then whoever the contractor would be, or the developer is that's doing that, I would assume that there would have to be, through the planning board and with our approval as well, something that would, go over the cosmetics of it and how
Correct.
this is going to be or whatever have you and stuff like that. And that in itself should be enough. And obviously the input would be there that you want something that maintains the historic value of it, etc. But then I feel that, we would be fleecing people if we're billing somebody in a district, because for one, you can't go back and you can't go, say, Springland or wherever,
No.
and you can't go back to one of these places and retrofit it and say that this is this. So if they're not doing it, and you got a new development that comes in and you're imposing something different on them, I don't think it's fair.
Right.
And I feel like if
Oh, no.
those people are paying taxes, part of their tax debit is for us to provide them these services. So I just don't see the whole validity to the whole thing It just seems, I don't say it's a total waste of time, but I mean, I think that we're dealing with an if, maybe, possibly, or whatever, something that's almost semi-far-fetched versus a reality to anything.
Now, I look at it this way. Zoning laws are provided in order to guide development and guide the implementation of the new building. This would come under an augmentation of the zoning law. And that being said, rather than have it be, in this day and age, we can't afford additional costs for period lighting for a project of that size, I would rather find a way for the developers to include it in the price of what people are purchasing over there and maintain the historic character of the community. I have David looking at it. It's used successfully other places. I'm really not asking for much other than an hour or two of David's time.
Right, I mean, you know.
And it came from the county. I mean, the county planning department has done a lot of research in this because they're looking to find a way to keep the communities throughout Orange County utilizing many of the same laws. I mean, we wouldn't necessarily be on our own here.
Well,
It's an exercise. It's an exercise in trying to save money and keep the historic
I
character.
mean, the way things are now, our code says that any development has to use period
Correct.
lighting in it when they develop these things. And the
Correct.
way it's been is, our Estates was told they had to use period lighting. They did a not wonderful job, so now the village is covering the cost. This would put the cost on the residents in that district.
What's the
Maybe it's the way to
matter,
go, maybe it's not, I don't know. I
what's
guess.
the matter with the lighting up there? What's
It's
next?
just constantly out.
The lights don't work?
One cul-de-sac will be out, and the next cul-de-sac will be out. I mean, Michael put a memo for us last year, didn't he? I think it said
Yeah.
something like $3,000 up there just for that particular.
So with regular street areas, if they go out, Orange and Rockland will fix the damages and cover it at their expense. But because they're period lightings, Orange and Rockland doesn't too, we've been covering the cost.
However,
Well, it's because
Orange and
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Orange and Rockland has come up with a period-style lighting that they will deal with, and we could make that part of
That could
this
be
as
another
well,
branch.
which would be another arm of this, and enable us to try to maintain the character of the community without exhausting Mike and his men to change light bulbs, and have it back on Orange and Rockland and the taxpayers in that
There's
district.
three approaches. Either the cost can be shouldered on the village. If a light goes out, we fix our cost.
Right?
The cost can be on Orange and Rockland. If we tell them we don't need those specific period lightings, they can use their own period style lightings. Or this is a new approach that will put the cost on the homeowners. So we can
You'll
decide.
get all three. When David puts up,
So we
pieces
can-
together, you'll get all three.
All right, any other questions on this thing?
No.
I don't mind spending the time.
All right. All right, we're a little ahead of schedule, so let's just jump to the Land Associates letter. Land Associates is right down the road there, in the same building as Chase Bank on the corner, on Orange Avenue and Main Street. They're requesting a handicap spot down there. Mike doesn't have any problem with it, Chief doesn't have any problem with it. Chief has a little note attached, and so does Mike, if you want to look through those.
Where are they gonna put this handicap spot?
We'd have to figure out the logistics, it'd probably be.
Because there are handicap spots there now.
Yeah.
My
I mean,
understanding.
that's my bank, so I know. I mean,
Yeah.
There are handicap spots behind the building.
I don't think it's behind the line, I think they're talking on the
So they're talking about putting one out
Yeah.
front.
Talking about-
Because,
Yeah.
and the.
They must be, because
Yeah, it's not
DOT
parking
sent them
lot.
here.
Yeah, they wouldn't need
Right.
us. They wouldn't need us.
Okay.
I think the bank uses the ones behind, the land uses the front entrance. I believe that's why they kind of need their own for their
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, there's an elevator in there, and it's in, yeah, go in the front door, I guess.
Right.
So we would have to schedule a public hearing on this for a new local law, which we can do at our next public meeting, or we can do tonight, whatever is the board's pleasure. I don't know if there's any preferences.
I think it would be better to have David write it up, just so we're clear and specifying exactly
Okay.
where it's gonna be. Kind of like when they give us 15-minute spots, and they specify it's gonna be in the end of the street
Right.
there.
Okay.
Just thinking of
Because they're
timing.
also, I mean,
There are photos, but they're colored, so we didn't have, you want to do photos?
does it point out where they're
I
going
necessary.
to
think it points out where they want it.
I'd just have David draw it up with.
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I know for me, one spot next to the other, it's not really good.
Yeah.
My only concern is Jimmy says that they're going to have to extend the sidewalk along the curb line. So when they decide where it is, I'm sure they'll come back and let us know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll figure out the logistics
Yeah.
of it.
Conceptually, it sounds like fine.
Right. Well, we're breezing along. She said, Michelle Rita said she'd be here a little early. So hopefully she'll be here in the next few minutes. Does any board members have anything they'd like to discuss tonight? Okay.
You had a good meeting the other night.
Yeah, it was a great one.
Can I get a minute and copy those things for myself?
Yeah. No, you can just give him mine.
Well, I need,
Oh,
I
that's
don't know.
okay. Whatever you're ready. Well, I wanted to have an executive session to discuss personnel. Well, if it wouldn't bother you, would you mind if we bump up our executive session and go jump into my office? It's either us waiting out here or waiting in there, this person. So is the board okay with that?
Yeah, let's do
It
it.
shouldn't take that
Yeah,
long.
well,
By the time she comes here anyway, we'll be done.
Was this lady supposed to be?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I allowed 20 minutes for each of the items,
Right.
but,
Thought we were going to be this quick.
yeah. We're very efficient.
Very efficient.
Hold it now.
I have to stand here and look at my hands and stuff. Oh, I see. The dowel is loose.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come in and speak to you guys. I got this information, I guess, on Friday morning, so I put as much together as, I mean, you guys obviously have an enormous amount of electrical stuff going on here, so in the village of Goshen.
And just to
But,
let the board know, Michelle, before she came tonight, she asked us for this information so she could come prepared.
Right,
Which is
because
nice.
you basically have 36, you have 37 accounts. One doesn't, it looks like it doesn't, no longer active. So it's, you know, look, the last activity was a few years ago. And you also have some other accounts which I would suggest down the road, and just, they have no activity and haven't had any for a long time. And it just becomes miscellaneous expenses to, I'll give you this. This is basically, this is basically just a very quick breakdown of every account that you have and how much electric is used over the last year. So you'll see that it's pretty extensive. Some of them are very large, some of them are smaller. And the ones that are zeroed out, I would suggest just calling Orange and Rockland and closing them if it's doable, because if you're not using any electricity or natural gas, which the Village of Goshen doesn't seem to have any natural gas at all, you're just paying for an account to be there that, you know, in these little charges, even though it doesn't seem like a lot, you know, you take, you have something that's being charged $15 a month, every month for, you know, years and years, and then you times that by, you know, 5 or 6 of them, you're coming up not with a huge amount of money, but certainly money that can go to better things. Yes. So what I did was, you have almost all of your accounts buying from MX Energy, which I don't know. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that name.
The contract has just expired.
Yes, it's actually. It does not appear that it just expired, but I could be, you know, just from looking at this stuff all the time, they have been billing you just whatever. You know, you're not in a fixed rate contract, and they're not by any means giving you a fair price at this point. And I don't say anything about the competition, but you know where these prices are at, and you're just, you know, I'll show you, basically this is actually a year's worth of bills on your largest account, which have, I guess it might be...
By the sewer plant.
Yeah, and what I did was, again, I printed out a bill from every month so you could see where I got my information from, and all of these accounts, about 35 of your accounts are priced exactly the same way. And this just shows you your supplier, how much electricity that you're using each month, and what you're paying for that electricity. So based on that information, I then took, I got for the Village of Goshen a preliminary fixed price. We deal with, M&R Energy is a direct supplier of natural gas, but we deal with a lot of different suppliers for electricity. And we basically go out and, you know, ask a few of these suppliers based on this usage. We do it kind of as a service to our natural gas customers, but we have now a lot of the municipalities. But we basically just say, okay, well, if someone is using this much electricity on an annual basis, what would be a fair fixed price for them right now? So I kind of tailored yours based on another municipality that uses almost the same to get an idea of where you would come in with the pricing. So this basically, now you have a kind of a unique situation here. You have one account that's a big account, street lighting, still buying electricity from Orange and Rockland. I'm not sure why that was. Didn't necessarily hurt you, but they were cheaper than MX Energy. So just so you know that. So I'm going to give you, this is first all of the accounts that are buying from MX Energy. Okay, so and this is a 1-year fixed price. So I don't know if, I think I have, you might have that.
That's okay, we can share.
Share them a little bit, but that's a 1-year. This is basically what you paid, and you know, each month for the last year. And I mean, it's really very simple. You know, it's not, I don't know if it looks complicated, but if I can do it, I always say anybody can figure this stuff out. So it's O&R's price, MX Energy's price per kilowatt hour, a fixed price from this point going forward, and then what you would save each month. Now, there is a reason why this price is so low. It wouldn't have been this low a year ago, but I think you probably got some of the information. Natural gas and electricity has plummeted through the floor. So, you know, obviously some of that is reflected in that, where, you know, you're just looking at prices much lower than they have been in years. And this is some boring material to explain why. You don't have to look at this now, but if you want to look at boring material, why the rate is so low, this is it. Now, it's kind of interesting and something good for you also to be aware of. This is the one account that's with O&R. And you'll see here what I'm talking about, how they have also dropped down. Fixed price becomes an insurance policy. You know, it's, you know what you're going to get. You know where you're going into the future, but you know you also can end up where, and you'll see. This is actually, so this is just the one account. You know, I don't want to confuse you, but I wanted you to know that you do have 30-something accounts with MX Energy and one large account still buying from Orange and Rockland. And this is that account. And I can give you all the, you know, the breakdowns and the account numbers and everything. So. You'll find it interesting though, and you can see clearly in those spreadsheets where O&R or MX Energy was higher than Orange and Rockland, and why it is beneficial to fix a rate versus just going, you know, going month to month. Most large users that we have, hospitals, you know, we have people like Rockland Bakery, municipalities, they're reluctant to just let it float and go month to month, because you can have some really strange things happen in these markets. I mean, I remember, I guess, not this past December, but the December before, Orange and Rockland came out with their electric rate, and it was 6 cents a kilowatt hour, and I was like, that's great. You know, it's good for people, it's good that it's gone down. And I called them and I said, you know, why is it so low? Because it wasn't really reflective of the current prices. And they said, you know what? There's adjustments to be made, and who knows what's going to be down the road. The next month they were 11.5. So, you know, those are the things that fixing a price helps to mitigate. And again, you know, it's just whether you're comfortable locking a price. I mean, most as I said, large users do lock it in for a year, some do 2 years. I mean, we have,
Especially for budgeting reasons.
exactly, yeah, and I did do an analysis, forgive me for all my papers here, but I did an analysis to show you commodities, the further out you go, they do go up. It's because they're literally sold by the month, and it's determined by, but a 2-year price still looks, you know, very attractive for you guys. And, you know, again, do we know where this stuff is going? If I told you that I did, it would not be true, because I have no idea. I mean, it fluctuates, it goes up, it's determined by our weather, our, you know, things that go on in the world, you know, what's going on in other parts of the world. When we had Hurricane Katrina, it blew out the natural gas platforms in the Gulf of Mexico. Natural gas and electricity went through the roof, you know, and we kept saying to people, bless you, that it was an anomaly and that you should just hold off and, you know, give this some time to settle down. They'll put the platforms back again, but a lot of these companies were like, you better lock in, it's going to do nothing but go up, and they, you know, we would never, you know, steer you to do something based on fear, or, you know, because we knew that once that they fixed the gas platforms, things would go back to normal. But those are the kind of things that, you know, business owners, and well, you guys really are running a business, and you know, those are the things that they don't want to be subject to. So this is the 2-year fixed price based on exactly the same numbers. So it's, you know, it's also very, the first one I guess you saw was like this 5.49. I don't know if you want to share that one. And then
Now, this amount of savings on both of these is the amount you'd save in a year.
that's right, yeah.
It's almost, it's about $3,000 difference by going to 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. I actually did this, I don't know if this is confusing or, but this is basically a summary of all of this. So it, you know, shows you.
This I understand.
Yeah, this shows you, you know, 1 year versus 2 years, basically. And the, you know, the one account that's buying from,
Okay, that's pretty simple. And
Is
obviously,
this-
that one account is not in these.
yeah, I have it for the, you wanted it for the 2-year one, right? For the, this is the,
No, it shows here on this one now that that other account is added in here, so the savings are even more than they're on.
Right.
right.
I'm not clear, can I ask you a question?
Oh, sure. I
All right.
hope that all these numbers are, I mean,
No,
they're 99% accurate.
I understand the numbers, I'm just not clear on what your company is.
M&R Energy is a natural gas supplier in the Orange, Rockland, and Central Hudson territory, and we had, you know, several thousand natural gas customers that we were, you know, primarily servicing them. And what was happening to a lot of those natural gas customers is they were overpaying on their electricity. And we would look at bills and be like, I mean, I know that you find it hard to believe, but I look at bills that people are paying 15, 20 cents a kilowatt hour, clearly just because they don't know. A lot of times it's senior citizens. It's disturbing to see, you know, how people get taken advantage of, and, you know, especially people who can't afford to be taken advantage of. So what we did was we met with a few electric suppliers, and we asked them if we could represent them basically as channel partners, you know, to do something together that we could benefit our customers. So are we somewhat of like consulting on the electric side? I guess you would say a little bit. We're basically giving you advice on what we think you should do, and we can get 3 different prices from 3 different suppliers. The one that we used, that I used for this, I purposely went to them and asked them for a price because they come in very low, and I like to use them. So,
Do you have appointed companies that you solicit these numbers from?
yes.
I think that's what I'm trying to get
Yes,
at.
we-
Okay,
we-
fine, I
we
just
get-
want to be
we
clear on
usually-
it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people need, like, we do a lot of not-for-profit. They need to have 3 quotes. They want to have that they, you know. So we do go out and try to get 3 quotes from you for you. You know, this was Direct Energy, just so you know, this was a company, Direct Energy. But there's other ones out there that would happily give you a price. And it's really good for you because it's somewhat irrelevant to us who you choose. But we do, I don't want to say we use them against each other, but we tell them, well, this one came in cheaper than you, and that one came in. And we found it to be so beneficial for our customers because, you know, these guys are like almost, you know, and, you know, very often they'll say, well, we'll beat the best price you get. And it ends up really being beneficial for you because I just had a situation with a not-for-profit, like a YMCA type of, and, you know, somebody had the business, wanted to keep it, but their price wasn't that fair. So I was like, well, you know, they've got a better offer. So, and of course, we help their gas business. So you're really doing them a favor, and you really do want them to be, you know, to be as low as possible.
Okay, so I guess my question is, do you go out into the marketplace and...
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm looking for Mary.
Upstairs.
Okay, thank you.
Do you get prices from a myriad of companies, or do you work directly with these 3 companies?
You know, we have...
I'm not faulting one way or the other, I'm just trying to understand how you work.
We primarily work with 4 different ones.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we primarily do.
Thanks.
We don't bother going to, you know, ABC Energy when we know.
Right.
When we know they haven't fairly priced people, when we know that they, you know, that there's stuff going on where, you know, I mean, there's price gouging in these markets. It happens. It happens a lot. And we don't want, you know, what kind of credibility are we going to have if we're recommending somebody who's overcharging you? You know, I don't think that looks good for M&R Energy. So.
And how, you guys are compensated from the electric companies, not from the village, is that accurate?
Oh, yeah, no. You know, that's another nice thing is that, you know, they come back with pricing and, you know, our compensation, to be honest with you, is very little. But they, you know, it's incorporated very slightly into their price and they take the hit. You don't take the hit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but you know what I mean? You are not, you're not, you know, and we can really, you know, you can whittle them down a little bit, I guess is the best, you know, you can really, you know, I mean, and these prices, I mean, it's, to me, it's unbelievable that they're even here. You know, I mean, Orange and Rockland over the summer was 11 cents, but there's factors contributing to that. We've had a very mild, energy, you know, just in general is dropping, you know, and when natural gas goes down, electricity goes down. It is kind of, people always say, well, electricity will be cheap in the summer. Not necessarily. If it's 95 degrees out, bless you, or, you know, a very hot day, natural gas goes up as well. You know, electric and natural gas, because it's all a ball of wax, and they're used in the production of each other, so.
Here's just a random hypothetical that probably is totally irrelevant. But let's say a year from now, New York State decides to allow fracking. That's what's happening. Does the price of natural gas go down and then electricity? And if we were locked into a 2-year, we would miss out on those savings, or is there totally no connection between the 2 things?
No,
I'm not saying I'm
it's a good
pro-fracking,
question.
for
No,
the
it's a
record.
really good question. If the price of natural gas goes down, then the price of electricity will most likely go down as well. And could you be in a contract that, you know, now, you know, the utilities are lower? Yes, that definitely can happen. I mean, locking in for 2 years, you know, my worry is the unknown. You know, I just
could be
don't.
something the opposite.
I mean, I could say to you, do it a year, because you know, right now, I will tell you with the you know, the knowledge of just listening to this all day long, and people talk about it, and you know, it's always going on in the office. You know, right now they see no reason for these commodities to go up. Absolutely none. There is absolutely, and when you listen to these, you know, speculators, they say that, you know, the next couple of years is going to remain pretty, you know. I will tell you that there is a little bit of a treading water thing. If you're going to wait for it to go down to 2 or 3 cents, I would say it's not going to happen. You know, it bounces like this, and it's been doing it a long time. It's almost like certain points where it doesn't go down, you know, like it won't break a certain point, and then it goes up and it doesn't want to break that point, luckily, either. And then it goes back down and it won't break that point. So I say, you know, it's treading water. It's just always in this little, you know, like I envision like a ping pong ball between two panes of glass, and it just keeps, you know. So do I think it's going to get, you know, where it's ridiculously low? No, but I don't think, unless, again, you know, there's a lot of things going on out there, you know, liquefying natural gas. When that happens, then it's a whole different ballgame. When that will happen, I would say, you know, they want to move on this stuff quickly, but will they? Not as quick as you want. Same thing like fracking, the red tape and stuff that's involved in all of this. It just takes forever, you know, to, but, I mean,
I'm not saying I'm pro-fracking, I just want to be.
I'm listening to you, I'm not saying a word.
no, I know. You know, I have mixed feelings about it, of course, being in this industry. You know, do I want, you know, anyone to be harmed? Of course not. But, you know, do you want, you know, you want this stuff to be affordable and reasonable all the time? I do.
I don't think we want to turn this into a frack.
No, right,
No.
Okay.
No. But I guess, you know, I don't know if I have any other really.
Essentially, you know, because we had someone earlier, and I had mentioned previously, we had talked to another broker.
Yes.
So that individual was going to go out and solicit some numbers from us. I think if the board authorizes it tonight and says it's okay, you could do the same with the companies that M&R work with.
Yeah.
And bring those numbers to us, then the board can make the decision after that.
That's fine. That's yeah, it's absolutely fine. I mean, again, these are preliminary prices. You know, there's they are time sensitive. That they could go down, they could go up. So you know, but it was to really give you an idea of where the market is. If you had locked in today, that would be very close to where you would be locking in. So you know, and again, you're going to see these little bounces up and down, but I don't think you're going to see anything, you know, I don't think. You never know. But
I think we're even, you know, anything is going to
yeah, and you know, if nothing else, just get yourself away from somebody who's overcharging you. You know, it's unnecessary, and you know, I do really feel that for this type of scenario, probably fixed pricing is, you know, a good way to control things, because otherwise you're just open to whatever. And Orange and Rockland can get very low, you know, they can, you know, go very low to very high. So, but I would, you know, happily get you some numbers and, you know, look at some stuff and we'll go from there.
Any board member questions?
Well, you mentioned something about, we don't have any gas accounts at all
No.
in the village?
We're all electricity. Well, the municipality only has electric.
What do you mean the municipality only has electric?
I mean, people.
So I mean,
people
how do we
use
heat
natural
this
gas.
building?
Electric, probably.
I believe so.
No.
No, we can't heat this building
No.
electric, and we
Or
can't,
maybe
the police station.
oil or
We got radiators.
We got radiators.
Yeah, I mean, and then
We do.
the
We
same
get the water
thing,
by
the same
electric.
thing with the thing. I just find it hard to believe that we don't have any natural gas account. We don't,
We have nice account.
that's
I
what
know
I'm
we do.
saying.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, that's something that you could also look into for us as well, right?
I could. I don't think you have a lot of natural gas though, because Goshen,
Well, this building
we can
here
look at
alone
all
has
this,
to burn 50
That's how
grand a year in natural
Yeah.
gas.
Well,
it's
we
not
have-
oil?
We
No,
have,
throughout the village. in
we
the
have natural
village.
gas in the street, so there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do about that, right?
No. If you have the pipelines running out here, but it could be that they're just not Orange and Rockland.
Well, no, they're not
No.
Orange and Rockland,
Yeah,
it's
they're-
Central Hudson.
No,
it's
NYSEG.
not Central Hudson.
Or
NYSEG.
NYSEG. Or, right, no, right, NYSEG.
Okay, yeah,
Well,
we can,
okay,
we can,
and
We can
because-
explore that as well.
I mean,
Yeah.
this has to be heated with gas, the police station.
Yeah, they
the
are.
thing,
They're all
all
yeah, I
these
wasn't
things.
sure, because there are pockets in Orange County that, and when I asked for the utility bills, they sent all O&R, and I guess I made the assumption thinking that you didn't, you know, a lot of places, but you're right in a sense that this is definitely populated enough that you should have natural gas.
We do.
I mean,
Well, we do.
you know, a lot of, when you go out into more rural areas, they do not
In the
have
town,
natural
they
gas.
do.
Right,
Yeah.
well, we do, and I mean, and I would, you know, if we're gonna look into this, we all might as well look into it all.
Do you know what you're doing? Do you know what you're doing on the NYSEG accounts? Are you buying from NYSEG? Are you buying from an
I think we'll
alternate
have to look
supply?
into that. I don't want to say, unless you can speak.
I don't
to
think
that.
there's an alternate
No, it's
request
NYSEG.
for that, it's just NYSEG.
Well,
Yeah.
there is, I mean, you can have
No,
the
I mean,
same way
On our
can.
bills
you
now.
do here,
Yeah.
but you know, what you're saying is you don't think we have any kind of contract with anybody on that,
Other than that, so, yeah.
other than NYSEG. But, I mean, I'm saying that if we're gonna do it, we need to do it for all, and we need to get with it.
Yeah, I will tell you, And it would be interesting to look at, and if you want to give me the numbers, I will look at it for you. NYSEC is much cheaper than Orange and Rockland for natural gas.
Yes.
Very, very. It's one of, I think it's one of the cheapest utilities in
Cheaper
the
than,
state. So you have
Central
to
Hudson
look
as
at your,
well.
yeah, you have to look at your 12-month average, what you've been paying, and does it, is it financially prudent? I mean, this is a utility that's consistently low,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, would I want you to do it? But only if it makes sense. You know what I mean? Only if it makes sense, because some of these utilities, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, Central Hudson also is much lower than Orange and Rockland. So, you have to look at the numbers, figure out what the 12-month average has been, and what a fixed price would be. Central Hudson came out with their rate for February, and it's like 40-something cents. Orange and Rockland, I think, is 60-something. So that just gives you an idea that they are very, very reasonable.
So is the board in favor of us getting some numbers?
Absolutely. Yes.
Whatever's gonna find, save us money.
So if
Yeah.
you want to follow me tomorrow, I'll follow up with you.
Yes.
We'll go from there.
Okay, yeah, I have some paperwork to authorize you to get prices from different, but I'll wait until tomorrow, and I'll email those to you. It just basically says, yes, I'm okay with, like I didn't release anything. That's why I got the numbers based on a different municipality, because I don't release anything to anybody until you say it's okay.
Sure.
That, you don't want to be giving your information out to people unless you know. Yeah, so I didn't give, but if you could just sign off on a couple of these different, suppliers, that
Yeah.
yes, this is okay to get a price from them, then I'll do that, start working on that. One thing is, if you're going to get prices, make sure that you set a date.
Yeah,
That's the only.
or else you're not comparing.
You're not comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's important to know that, because if you say you get a price from me on a Wednesday, and then you get a price from somebody else on,
A week later.
the following week,
Yeah.
it could work in to their disadvantage, so.
That's
Okay,
good, that's
all
good.
right, it was a
Thank you very
pleasure
much.
to meet you all, and
All right.
I'll be in touch, regarding the other information, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
All right,
great.
thanks for your
Thank you.
time. Take care now. Have a good evening.
All right, anyone else have
So I
anything?
think about getting them to,
Yeah, it makes sense.
Have
I
them
just
both
thought
get
it
at the
was
same
weird that she come in and saying that we don't have an actual, gas, and I'm like,
I think she was just, the information I got sent over, and she was.
yeah.
basically.
And I would probably say our gas bill is probably parallels the electric bill to some degree. And, if we're gonna do something like that, we should do them all. I just one.
Thank you.
Sarah? Okay, papers to correct.